G'day YouTube, my name's Lance and welcome to Bundy Bear's Shed. Well, this is just a quick clip on resealing the petrol Kero tap. And that's the tap that you'll find on a TED20. And what the tap does is you have two inlets. One inlet is for the petrol for starting the tractor or gasoline. The other one is for your power kerosene or your TVO, I think they call it in England. And so what happens over time is they have a cork in here and the cork plays up and these become troublesome in that they leak everywhere. When you want to run off the petrol to get the tractor started, you turn the tap that way. When you need to, when it's hot enough and you run on the power Kero, you turn the tap across the other way. So nowadays, well in Australia here, mostly we just run gasoline, petrol in all of them. And quite often there's a seam along the tank here, and that's your petrol tank and this is your kerosene tank. And quite often that's rusted out in between anyway, so whichever one you use is neither here nor there. Now, this is a tank off an old wreck I had outside, so and you'll notice the two caps, one for the petrol, the small tank here, and one for the kerosene. So these tanks are very old now. We can sell brand new tanks, no troubles at all. But look, the kit we're going to put in is it has the tap washer with the 5 holes in it. It has a new cork for under the glass bowl, and it has washers from under the bolt. So I actually buy them out of England off AgriLine. So if you're in England, AgriLine's the go. If you're in Australia, go to my website queenslandtractorspares.com.au and we have them there. Our part number is AG66241. I was nearly going to say that back to front. Yeah, you should be able to see that by the looks. I'm squinting into the side view, I'm just trying to make sure you can see it clearly. So the first part of your job is to drop your bowl off, put a container under there and drain both tanks. When you undo these screws, and you have to undo the bottom screw, there's a copper washer coming out or a fibre washer coming out. There's a bottom screw. Look at the gauze on that. That's just past it. That gauze is no longer. And that's the other one. It's no good either. This tank's been sitting around for a long time. So we can actually supply a gauze. That's what a good one should look like. And we can actually supply a plastic gauze to sit on here now. And I can actually supply a brand new bolt with the proper gauze already on it. Once again, that'll be on the website, Queensland Tractor Spares, but under the Ferguson section. So the first part of the job is just pull it out, drain the tank, make sure you've got all the battery and that disconnected before you do anything on your tractor. Having a bit of fuel dripping around, then pulling your battery terminal off, it's just not a good thing. Might light up your life in a way that you're not real keen on. So disconnect battery, drain fuel tank, and then you pull the two off, and then we'll just take over on how you whack that little seal kit in from there. Okay, there's our tap off, and that's what it looks like off the machine. I haven't worked out how come yet, but there's like a nickel plated one which hasn't got a bad finish on it, and it's a nice looking one. And there's also a brass one which is solid brass, not that you could tell by the look of this one. But as it sits on the tractor, that's what you see. Now, the kit has one cork washer that seals the glass bowl here. It has a cork gasket that goes in behind the tap to stop it from leaking, and it also has 4 fibre washers. Now the fibre washers, they go on these bolts. Now one goes on the bottom of the bolt to seal it, and one goes on the top, and as you screw it up that should seal it up. Now that's how it was originally, fibre washers. It depends what you're doing with your tractor. There's nothing at all wrong with replacing these with copper washers. The fibre washers only lasted probably 60 years. Look, it's up to you which way you go. They come in the kit. There's nothing wrong with using them in the kit. I think it's a good thing. But we'll just put them to the side for the moment. And on this tap, now this is off an old wreck of mine. That's why it's so filthy. It's just, it's terrible, look at it. But that's often how you see them. They come off the tractor. They don't come, even this is off another old wreck I had. And that one's brand new compared to this other one. But look, to start with, you have to pop your bowl off. Now, the bowls are all stained, but we can clean that up later. We take the bail off, and the bail is the piece that holds the glass bowl on. It just pulls out like that out of the way. And being an old tractor from out in the paddock, this is quite seized up. But we're going to go through this tap and we'll fully restore it. We'll bead blast it and get it looking nice. Now under the cap here, that's where that copper, copper, I've got copper on the mine now. That's where that other washer goes. This is a little bit dinted around the edge there. Looks like they've been a little bit rough with it. There's a gauze in here. And to get the front of the tap off here, there's a nut with a little lock nut on this piece here. So we'll go ahead and undo those. Put a bit of possum pea around it all just to help. And I don't know if this tap works or what, but I'm pretty sure it'll work when we're finished. That looks like about a 3/8 nut. There's a small nut first, then there's a larger nut. There's a washer under that larger nut from memory. I haven't done one of these for a little while. It's just an interesting thing. I thought I'd do a little clip for everyone on. Now what I do from here, I make sure the nut is about level with the end of the thread. You can see, if I get my big hand out of the way, see the nuts sticking out just. So I make sure that's pretty well level with the end there. Oh sorry, I'm bumping you. And then I just grab a copper hammer. Just a gentle tap, it doesn't need a lot. You don't want to bend that back screw. The big nut comes off. You can see the difference in those two. There should be a little washer in here. And a little spring. I've found with this, I've seen some with just a spring washer, and I've had some with a little spring. Now it must just be a change they made over time. On this particular one, it's the one with the little spring. And in there, that's the remains of this fella here. You can see there's no centre left in it. Now, on the tap here, that's a little piece of cork. That's a part of that washer. And this here, you'll notice there's 2 holes there. These 2 holes join in behind here, so that when you open a port, it'll come through here and back to the other port. But we'll go through that when we get it all done. So So look, I'll go and bead blast this up and tidy it up a little bit, and I'll come back and we'll fit the kit and we'll talk about what to look for. Well, I've cleaned a few things up and look, they've come up nice. We bead blasted them. Now, let's have a talk about how it all works. So, we know that with these screws, with the screws going up into the tank, that's where the fuel comes into it. So, when the fuel comes in, there's a drilling from here, down through here, and that fuel comes out there. You can actually see that from the back here. So the fuel comes down here, depending on which way you have the tap. So that gets fuel straight into it. So where does it go from there? Well, from there, it comes out this hole here, and that hole there. So this one was your petrol to start it with, and Kero was this one here. That's probably not that important at this stage. So, and once the fuel comes out of the tank to this hole here, well, depending on which way your tap is, this tap has a hole in here. So these two holes are joined. So when you turn the top of the tap to line up with this hole here, across like that, the fuel comes out that hole, in this hole, out that hole, and out here. Same with this one, so they're actually crossed over, which is very basic. It's easy to understand, I believe. Then when the fuel comes to this hole or this hole here, doesn't matter which one, it's joined to in here. So the fuel comes from the tank, from either one to either one of these, but then it all comes into your fuel bowl. And from your fuel bowl, it comes out, then there's a gauze there. There's a gauze in an awful lot better condition than this one. So the fuel comes out under the gauze, so any impurities, any dirt, any water and all that, it sits at the bottom of the bowl, and then after going through the strainer, it comes out that hole there, and that's what your pipe going through to your carburetor looks like. So it's a very simple system, but they do suffer from this cork getting very hard. So what we do here is this cork is a little bit big in this one, but they do sit in. That holds a little bit of tension there. We'll try and pop him in. And just push him down all the way around. Make sure it sits in the little gap here. Make sure this end here, that's sitting up a bit, you can see. That sits down. And sometimes with fuel in them, these things shrink a little bit, so there's plenty of room in it. Now I normally just put a squirt of oil on the top there, and on the tap here, make sure that this surface is nice and smooth, no humps, lumps, bumps. And then we screw him down in. Now we have to make sure that it sits inside the two stoppers here. There's a stopper on each side, so the tap goes through that range there. Now, on this particular model, the straight up and down position is off. So when the tap is straight up and down, there's no fuel coming through the system at all. It's blocked. So this hole here is blocked by the flat on the tap, and so is this one there. So what we do from here, we just pop the spring in, pop the big screw in, or the big nut in I should say. And you do this up just enough so you've got a little bit of drag on it. You'll feel it if it's too tight. That's loosening itself off a little bit, that's why the lock nut's there, but we'll just nip him down about there somewhere. We'll put the lock nut on just for the moment. And that's an adjustment you can do in time. If your tap's leaking and you haven't got around to buying a kit yet, you can just nip that screw up a little bit, loosen the lock nut and do that. But look, be very careful with that. If you break that off, you've buggered your whole tap up. But that's firm enough that if you turn it off or turn it into one position or the other, it will stay in that position. Now just a quick note on the, you can then test that by air, make sure everything's lined up. I'll grab my air line. And if we're across to this one here, there's certainly fuel coming out there. You should never have worries with that anyway. Now, I haven't got a new one of these at home for this demonstration, but you can buy the new gauze in the centre there, so at this moment we'll just pretend that's a good one. Then the cork goes in. The glass bowl goes on. Now the glass bail, actually I should put the bail on first, it's a bit of a nuisance otherwise. And give that a bit of a twist, make sure it wants to stay on its own, it's not going to fall off. Put your glass bowl there. And tighten him up. Make sure the glass bowl is sitting in. And there you go, it's that easy. That's one tap done. Now, I should wipe this up a little bit. I've got a bit of oil on my fingers, but that's all right. So that's how you fit the kit. Now, with these fellas here, that's pretty self-explanatory. You put a washer on here, you put a little bit of oil on the thread, you poke him up through, you put another washer on the top and screw him up. 11/16 spanner fits that. The old Fergie spanner, the original Ferguson spanner, it was 11/16 on one end and 1.1 on another. So look, that's how to fit that kit. It's a simple little job, certainly easily doable at home, and that's a nice looking tap now. So anyway, have a go. Buy a kit, have a go. I think we used to sell these little washers here separately, but when we come across the kit. Most people would have to buy that, then they'd want this anyway, so we'll just work like that. Now if you'd like to do this job on your tractor and not undo these things here, nothing wrong with that either. You can leave it all in, but be aware that when you undo this screw here and pull this out, you're going to lose all your fuel anyway, so you do need to drain your fuel tank. There's no way around that really. So, and to drain your fuel tank, you just undo the cap, undo this here, put something under it to catch it, and away you go.